calculate the following for the frequency distribution. We want a sample mean and a sample standard deviation. Now, in order to do a mean and standard deviation of a frequency distribution, the problem that we have is the classes are actually values that are qualitative because we have 50-58. That dash doesn't have any mathematical meaning. So what we have to do is we have to change this data into something that is meaningful but quantitative. And the thing that we use is the midpoint. So the midpoint of the class represents the class very well and is quantitative. So if I take the midpoint of my first class, it's just the average of the lower class limit and upper class limit. So we just add them together and divide by 2. So the midpoint of the first class is 54. And then I can get the midpoint of the next class, taking 59 plus 67, dividing that by 2, and that is 63. And if you'll notice here, the difference between any two consecutive lower class limits and upper class limits is 9, and that's our class width. And these midpoints are also off by 9. So to speed things up, you can actually just find the first class width, the first midpoint, and then just add the class width consecutively to get the rest. So the next one here would be 72, then 81, 90, and 99. So there are the midpoints. And when we're doing weighted statistics of a frequency distribution, the midpoints will always go into L1 and the frequencies will always go into L2. That's just a standard we'll stick with here. So go into your list editor to enter these values. If you have anything in L1 and L2 already, just go ahead and clear those out. Just highlight the name, press clear and enter. And then start entering your data into both lists. So I'll start with my midpoints into L1 and then the frequencies into L2. Now, to get the value of the standard deviation and the mean, we'll use var stats, but we need to take care to make sure we're using a frequency list. So these menus are really helpful in that it's hard to forget to put a frequency list here. In the other mode, if you don't have these menus, if you have one of the older calculators, you do have to hit second and 1 at this point to get L1, and then a comma, which is right above the 7, and then second and 2, which is L2, to make it do the weighted statistics. But these menus help you remember those values. And all it does is puts these on the home screen next to the function separated by commas anyway, and gives you the results. So the mean here, I'll report as 72.4, and the sample standard deviation, I'll give that as 14.1. And just be careful to make sure you give the sample standard deviation, which is SX, and not the population standard deviation, which would be sigma x. So always know which one you need and round according to the number of decimals that's requested in the question.